Hi, David here. You see on the left, this is code that someone published on YouTube as a tutorial. And on the right, it's basically how we're going to refactor that. And I'm going to explain you every step from the left to the right. Let's get going. So where do we start? When we look at this code, we're going to analyze that, and then I will tell you what I see and what can be improved, right? So the first thing that comes in mind is the fact that when you look at that code, is dead code, right? So we know that you see right away router here isn't used. So that's dead code, right? And another thing here is this console log right there that we don't need. So that's already two things we can remove. They're really small when you think about it, but they make a lot of difference when you start having apps growing and growing, okay? So that's already one thing. Second thing, or the third thing in our case, is something that is actually commonly done in the industry, and I wonder how we can make sure that people stop doing it really, is this idea of you have a component. If you look at it here, let me just make sure that I have it over there, select it properly. You see that zone right there. It's state management in the component. So the component is called home, and you have state management that is basically within the component, and then we render the things right at the bottom right here. There, that part over here, you doesn't have to be here. So that it shouldn't be here. Let me show you why. So this is gonna be the third one, and we can move that to hooks, right? We're going to do that in this video, right? So then the next part that is also quite obvious here is the fact that you have this layout right there where component and product and layout, they all come from component. You see there, if you just select that part right there, these are default export, right? And I'm gonna show you why why you should prefer name export over default export, and how you can use something called index. So index shortcut to make that code even easier to maintain over time. And last thing is the fact that right here, so I'm gonna put it as a number 5, is the fact that the URL is hard coded right there. So are you ready to see how we can go from there to here in about 10 minutes? Okay, let me tell you that in a few seconds. Hey, my name is Davey. I'm a software engineer, and this is Refactoring.Coach, where we make your code maintainable. Let's go back to the code and let's make that maintainable. So here is the app. And as you can see in that app right there, we have quite a bit of things. And as we said, the first thing that we can improve here is to remove dead code, right? And remove this console log that are not needed. And we see the app is still working because, well, they're not needed for that. And as we do that, we can remove dead code right there. Now, the second thing that I mentioned is the fact that here we have that part that is basically state management directly in the component. And what you could do is actually remove that, create a use product hook, okay? And what you want to do with that product is just it needs to return you the product here, and that is because that's the one used right here, and that's all you want that thing to do, okay? So let me put it right here for the sake of cheating, but I'm gonna move that into a different file right after. So we're gonna have it here, and I'm just gonna pass this one right there and then return that here as product, right? So once I do that, you see on the left the app is still working properly, and we can basically make sure that we can now easily export that one here, okay? So what are we going to do? What we're going to do is to create, we have a folder called hooks, which is here, and we're gonna add a use product hook. It's a JavaScript one, so don't forget that we're gonna migrate that entire thing to TypeScript later on in this refactor, because TypeScript is the place you should go. So once we have that, what we need to do here is indeed bring the use state up here, bring use effector up here, and then we're gonna need Axios right there. And then the last thing we need here is the API URL. So that thing is available in the page right here. So let's move that here, and then we go back to use product, and we move that over here. Now we have that URL here. We're going to fix that at a later stage, and for now leave it there. Now that we have it, we need to go back to our index page, and let's make sure that we remove that entire thing. And then in the index page, what we need to do is to import that use product, right? So once we do that, technically our application should still be working again. Now let's remove dead code. Axios is not needed. We don't need to have this right here, right? So our application is still working. Now another thing we can actually quickly improve here is looking at the packages, and we see that we're using React 18 because you're using React 18. So you can go back to that page and then remove that React line over there. It's not needed when you're using React 18, and actually it's earlier than that. Okay, so things are coming well together, right? And now the things I have here is that use product. So the first thing I'm going to do is to show you how you use the index shortcut to make sure that that hooks product becomes just hooks. They come from the hooks folder. So the way I will do that over here is basically inside that folder, add an index.js, right? And then once I have it, I'm going to just export from it, and I'm just gonna export the use product, and we definitely gonna use form at some point. Go back to that index page, and what I need to do now is just to remove that use product there, and then you see that our application is still working properly. And we can apply the same thing right here at the top, but I would love to first explain some concept about the difference between default export and name export. Right here, when I type, I have component/layout. So if we go to layout right there, we see that it has a default export online 94, right? And then all the way at the top, we're just creating a const right there. So Next.js basically use default export on pages, right? That's the internal melting pot there. But default export, they don't give you first, in terms of speed of writing code and achieving what you need to do, you're gonna have to guess names and stuff like that. If someone creates a component like layout, why don't you just use the same name? Well, you're gonna say using the same name here. That is correct. But the thing here is the person the person who wrote that has to type layout. There is no help you get from the IntelliSense. However, if I go back here, so let me put it like this, and let's go back to layout. And if here I just put an export, like a name export, so you see I'm having and a name export and a default export right there. So now I go back to that page right here. I can now put that the object notation and just tap L, and you see right away it gives me the name that comes from on the other side. And with this approach, it's difficult to make mistake on the names right there, and it helps with things like tree shaking to know exactly what is being used, right? Default just say, hey, text whatever is default there, but yeah, tree shaking can work, but default name export will give you a better edge, and as you see, productivity right there. So once I do that, I can actually do the same thing for product. So where is product? Product is here. We're just gonna export that, right? And now what I want to do is to get to a place where I can use the index shortcut. So the way I do it is to go to component, and then inside component add an index.js right there. So do we have it? No, we have it in product, and I want to add that inside component. So index.js, and then from there what I need to do is basically to export from, so we're gonna export from product, and we also have layout, right? So once we do so, we have models and all of that. I'm gonna do that as we go into this refactoring session. And now I can go back to my index page and then basically say from here, you don't need that layout anymore, and you can just say product right here, and you end up with something that looks like this, right? So we're getting to a place where our code is it's way smaller, easier to maintain, and you make sense of where things are coming. And as we go, we're going to show you how you can make this code even more maintainable by adding tests and so on and so forth. So don't forget to subscribe, and every week we just put one of them up, and for you it's a good way to learn how to be a senior engineer, basically. So here is one last thing before we finish with this video. The thing we have here is the fact that we have the layout. So in this app, as you can see on the left here, we have admin, and then the home page. So the admin, if I go to the admin page, I also see that here there is a layout. In React, in Next.js, there is something called underscore app.js. That thing there represents the command wrapper for the entire set of components for the entire app. So if something is being reused everywhere, like a layout, you can actually come here and then add layout like this. So let me add that like this. It's not coming layout. Right, really good. Now I can just split that and then put it this way. And as you can see, so let's import that over here, layout from component. And you see right away at the top, without me doing much, it just import that from component. He doesn't have to figure out, hey, I'm gonna go inside component/layout. It just comes from component, right? So once we have that, we see right away that on the left we have now 2 nav bar, and that's really not what we want. So what we gotta do is to go back to our pages, and we can now get rid of this and this, and now it's working. And we gotta do exactly the same thing for the admin, and then by doing so we can safely remove that, and then make our component much easier to handle. And then if we go back right here, we can see that I can go from there to there, and the app is still working really well. So let's go back to that index page. That's it. That's where we at. We can remove the layout right here, space, yeah, and then that's what we have. That's it for today. And well, what I'm gonna have here for you is these refactoring sessions. We're gonna do once a week, an entire set of, we take an app and we break that apart, and we make sure that we give you a pretty good understanding on how you can improve an app. So if you want your app or an app that you saw to be refactored, just put that in comment for now, and don't forget to subscribe, because we have awesome things we're gonna be doing here. Mobile application, web app, backend, front end. We're going to refactor them all, and that's gonna serve for you as a way to grow your technical skills. We have a deal. You take care. Bye.